Pick up the phone.
He was considered a top welterweight.
But why?
And he fought them. They was considered a top welterweight. He was considered a top welterweight.
Hold up. They say you didn't fight no. I don't know. They saying T is saying you ain't fight nobody in the class.
No, he ain't beat nobody.
You ain't beat nobody in what class?
Welterweight. Ask him who you beat. What up, Danny?
Yeah, what up? Oh, he trying to say who you beat, Danny.
Ask him.
Well, I beat everybody at 140.
Thank you.
I thought I beat Thurman. I thought I beat Porter. I didn't get the decision. You feel me?
So, hey, Danny.
Fence.
Danny.
Those are arguably those are two tough decisions. You feel me?
Same thing I said.
Hold up.
I didn't win those fights. No, but I did beat a lot of good fighters though.
There you go.
I beat a lot of great fighters.
Point made. At 47, he didn't beat the guys that y'all saying to make him a threat at 47. Now at 40, he was wrecking stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you can't say Errol.
Arguably, those are two fights that a lot of people thought I won.
Yeah, but you didn't get the victory. That's what we talking about.
But do people get robbed in boxing?
I didn't get it.
People get robbed.
All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Man, in this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford and what he had to say about Danny Garcia and Errol Spence Jr.'s competition at 147 pounds. And man, let me tell you, dog, cats are saying a lot of stuff to convince themselves of some things. But unfortunately, man, everybody else has been watching, so it ain't really floating, man. Now, before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And thank you to everybody that supports by coming through the live streams we do every day. All right, so as you know, Errol Spence Jr. will be fighting Terence Crawford in July 29th in Las Vegas for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. Fight between the two top welterweights in the world, no doubt. Errol Spence Jr. has 3 belts, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO. And you have Terence Crawford, who has the WBO. Hope I said that right. Errol Spence has the WBA, the IBF, and the WBA. And Terence Crawford has the WBO. Great fight. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of talk about what's going on. And Terence Crawford was on an interview. It finally dropped, the $1 Million Worth of Game episode with Terence Crawford on it. Very good interview, man. Long interview. But he talks about the notion that Errol Spence Jr. has a better resume than him. And so he's talking to Gilly the Kid and his co-host. And he's saying that, look, are you saying that Errol Spence has a better resume than I do all around or at 147? So Gilly the Kid says at 147. Errol Spence Jr. has a better resume at 147. And then he starts mentioning who he fought. Now, Terence Crawford says he disagrees with it and says, why would you say that? My first thought is, why wouldn't he say that? It's obvious. Why wouldn't he say it? It's obvious. But hey, man, Terence Crawford goes on and says, and talks about Gilly's answer, which was, well, he said, Danny Garcia, that's one guy. And he said, okay, stop right there. Let's talk about Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia never beat anybody at 147 pounds. Right? And then he get Danny Garcia on the phone and he said, hey, Danny, who have you beaten at 147? He says, okay, you beat everybody at 140. I'll give you that. But when you fought, and this is me paraphrasing, when you fight Sean Porter, you lost to Sean Porter. You lost to Errol Spence Jr. You lost to Keith Thurman. Right? So clearly you ain't beat anybody at 147. Right? The conversation then kind of dies off and goes into a next area. Now, here's my thing. That's ridiculous. Not necessarily because of Danny Garcia. However, if you look at Danny Garcia and you say, well, Danny Garcia, was an excellent 140 pounder. He beat everybody at 140. Then you got to say, okay, you have to actually, to complete this, you have to say, okay, Errol Spence Jr. beat Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia didn't have a big win at 140. Even though Danny Garcia, I do believe, is a former WBC world champion. Okay, even though he was a WBC world champion. So he won a title he was a welterweight champion, which I would say is better than the guy that Terence Crawford won the championship off of, who was Jeff Horn. So when you look at who has the better resume, and I say this no matter who is making this argument, you can always go walk down one guy's resume and try to dismiss everybody. But look at Terence Crawford and who Terence Crawford has beaten. He's beaten Jeff Horn. That's an unimpressive win. You have Jose Benavidez. That's an unimpressive win. You have Igis Kalvinakis. That is not necessarily, that's a mandatory, so he had to take it, but come on. Amir Khan was knocked out by Danny Garcia. Kell Brook was knocked out by Errol Spence. What's his man's name? Sean Porter had already been beaten. Just like you talk about Danny Garcia, Sean Porter had already been beaten by Kell Brook, Errol Spence Jr., and Sean Porter too. And Keith Thurman as well. The only top guy that Sean Porter beat was Danny Garcia. He got a decision against Yordanis Ugas. I guess you can consider that to be a big win for him against Danny Garcia. But most people thought that he won the fight. Now, Terence Crawford dismisses the idea that, where Danny Garcia says that, or Terence Crawford dismisses the idea where Danny Garcia says those are close fights, he won those fights. And he said, well, you didn't get the decision. But see, that's not all that matters. It does matter how you perform in a fight. It does matter whether or not you put on a fight and you were close to winning and other people thought you could win, because that proves that you're a tough fight. You can't say that for Jose Benavidez, that Jose Benavidez has been in there with somebody like Sean Porter and somebody thinks that Danny Garcia got the win, or been in the ring with Keith Thurman and somebody said, okay, we thought he got the win. If you're going to be fair and you're going to say, you're going to really address the issue of who had better competition at the weight class, you have to look at everybody Terence Crawford fought and everybody that Errol Spence Jr. fought. And to be honest, it's just not a comparison between the two. Errol Spence Jr. has fought the better fighters. He's taken 3 belts off of 3 people. He took the belt off Kell Brook. At the time Kell Brook fought Errol Spence, he was the IBF champion. He beat the IBF champion. When he fought Sean Porter was the WBC champion, and he beat the WBC champion. At the time that he beat Yordanis Ugas was the WBA champion, and he beat the champion. So if you're only going to look at who actually won fights and looking at their resume, then the 3 fighters that I just named are better than everybody's on that resume of Terence Crawford at 147 pounds, with the possible exception being Jeff Horn. But we all know what Jeff Horn is. Jeff Horn was a George Kambosos, a flash in the pan, a guy that got a win in there. And by the way, I do believe in the next fight that he had against, I think it was Gary Cochran, that Jeff Horn fought. Man, he got his face opened up in that one. But anyway, man, it's just going to be a really interesting conversation, man. People are continually going to convince themselves of the things that they see and the things that they hear. And I don't have a problem with, man, it's going to be a really good fight, but I had to say that. Could not disagree more strongly. And with that, I'm out. Peace.